So we're super excited to have him here with us today. But before we get started, I just wanted to remind you about the third session in this series coming next Tuesday, September 29th, again at 10 a.m. Pacific. We'll have Don Erickson and Mike Anderson from our marketing team here at AIM discussing underwriting and alternatives. That's another great topic that you're not going to want to miss out on, so be sure to mark that on your calendar. As has been the case with every session of the workshop thus far, you'll be receiving an email from me with your link this Friday, September 25th, and then you'll receive that email again on Monday, September 28th, and then again 1 hour before the session on Tuesday, the 29th. If you have any questions, as always, you can give me a call here at the AIM office. And don't forget, during today's presentation, we will be giving away 4 more Amazon gift cards to 4 attendees, so be sure to stick around to find out if you're a winner. We'll be announcing that at the end of the call today. With that, I am now going to turn this over to Mike and Aaron for today's presentation.
Great, thank you. Good morning. This is, go ahead, Mike.
Go ahead, Aaron.
It's okay. It's okay.
Just a quick reminder that we are recording this, and to get a good quality recording, we've got everybody on mute. That's pretty standard for the folks that are on our webinars routinely. We will push questions to the end. And so with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Aaron.
You can tell Mike and I didn't practice our intro. We'll have it down next time. So this is Aaron Cassover. We're going to talk about hands-free long-term care insurance cross-marketing. This is the magic stuff. This is where you have a system that works for you and just brings in leads. As Mike mentioned, we'll talk about questions at the end. I always love to keep things interactive. So if you get to a spot, you have a question, you have a thought, you have a fun fact you want to share, type it in the chat. Let's keep this two-way if we can. I think it just works better that way if we all do engage. I do get tunnel vision. I've just learned that about myself as we've been spending more and more time of our lives in these online presentations. I focus on the slide and not on the questions. So if you type a question in and you're like, want an answer, I promise you we will go through everything at the end and make sure anything that wasn't addressed in the presentation gets covered. So today's agenda, we're going to talk about what's changed in sales. And this may or may not be news to you, but it's been a very slow evolution in the role of a salesperson and the role of a buyer, and over really the past 20 years, to the point where we may have not even noticed how much things have changed. And so I want to talk about that, talk about what's changed, because that really gives us some perspective into our role today, how we sell today, what works today. And by today, I mean, you know, the world we live in, not just COVID-19. I think this applies before and after as well. We'll talk about the customer journey, really the buyer journey that somebody goes through when they're shopping for insurance, when they're shopping for long-term care insurance, and really why I think long-term care insurance is especially well suited to this automated cross-marketing process. And then we'll get down to details. So we're going to give you a system to put it in place to make this work and start generating more leads, more prospects, more sales by building a system to bring these people into automated cross-marketing. Now, a quick detour. Nothing I'm going to share with you today is a secret. There's no secret here, but most agents have not done this. The vast majority of agents, what I'm going to show you today, don't have this in place, won't ever put it in place. It's just, you know, it's too hard, it seems too complicated. It's not really that hard or complicated. It just takes a little bit of work. There is no silver bullet. There's no magic secret. There's no wand you wave and poof, you get a bunch of leads in. This is a process. It's a system. It's going to take some effort. It's going to take some discipline. We're going to give you a bunch of tools to help you make it happen, but ultimately it's up to you. If you want to make this work for you, if you want to benefit from automated cross-marketing, from generating long-term care insurance leads in an automatic way, it's up to you to put it in place. And so, you know, decide if you want to be like most agents and not do this and not benefit, or if you want to be one of the few, one of the rare ones that are going to see significant sales growth because you're building systems to generate opportunities. Decide who you are. So we used to live in a land of information scarcity, and I have the 1970 Ford pickup. This is when my grandfather was out shopping for his Ford pickup. Actually, he was a Chevy guy, but that's a different debate. In the 70s, in the 80s, in the 90s, even in the 2000s, we lived in a world of information scarcity. And if you wanted to learn about a product, you really had to go to the person that sold that product to get information. So in this example, if you wanted to learn about a Ford pickup in 1970, 1980, 1990, you would go to the dealer and you would talk to the salesperson on the showroom floor. And they would show you the car, they would show you the bells and whistles, they'd open up the hood and point things out, they'd give you the brochure to take home, and that was your information. You had to go to the salesperson to get the information you needed. The sales materials, they were the expert. Maybe you could find a magazine article or a newspaper article that talked a little bit about the car, but it was really generally not a detailed review. You couldn't get tons of detail. You had to just go to the salesperson. And so the role of the salesperson really began when somebody was starting to just learn about products. It began at that first kind of foray into learning about what you had to sell. Today we live in a very, very different world. We live in this world of information abundance. And so taking that example, if you were to go look for a Ford pickup today, you could go to Motor Trend and you can read a long form article looking at different pickups like it, comparing them, talking about the pros and cons. You could go to Edmunds and you could see Blue Book value. You could see kind of resale value. You could look at past year's models and see exactly what these cars are worth. You could go to Consumer Reports and get lots of stats about reliability, owner satisfaction. You can go to TrueCar. TrueCar will show you the actual price people are paying for this car. And you can see exactly how much the dealer paid for it, what their financing options are, if they're getting incentives to make the sale. All this data is available to the buyer today. And by the way, if you notice what's missing from all of these things, it's Ford's website. You can go and learn everything you know about a purchase today, about a car or anything else, without ever going to the manufacturer's website. And it's because we live in this world of information abundance. And this is just the start. There are an infinite number of reviews. There are social media, so you can go onto Twitter or Facebook or any other social media network, and you can read people's experiences, people's comments. You can ask your friends, hey, have you bought a pickup in the last couple of years? What'd you think of it? What'd you buy? And this has really changed the way people make purchases. This idea of information abundance has changed the way people approach a purchase. It's changed the process that they go through, and it's changed the role of the salesperson. So where the salesperson used to be the expert, today the friends are the expert. Where the salesperson used to have all the details, today Google has all the details. And this is cars, but the same thing is true about long-term care insurance, which is a complicated product, lots to learn, lots of details. It's really true of all insurance, that you can go and you can read reviews, you can read articles, you can get lots of detail, you can get opinions from friends, and you can do all of this without talking to a salesperson. And so this is the world that we live in today. Now, there are some purchases, like, for example, travel agents. We know that travel agents, when people could go research prices, research flight times, research hotels online, it devastated that market because people would go do that. They'd self-serve and then they'd buy. The cost of getting that wrong, the cost of buying, the Hyatt instead of the Marriott for a night, or flying on American instead of United, the cost of making the mistake is really not that big. You still have a bed to sleep on. You still get to the destination. You might spend a little more money, but it's not going to have a huge impact in somebody's life. The cost of buying the wrong insurance plan, on the other hand, can be very devastating. As we know, It can mean you have to change your doctors. It can mean you don't get certain access to healthcare. It can mean in long-term care that some things are covered, some things are not covered that you would need. There may be opportunities that are closed because you don't have a cash benefit. You can't pay in-home health workers, or lots of different aspects of this decision. If you go alone and you get it wrong, it's not like buying a plane ticket. It's a much bigger impact. And so while we live in this world of information abundance, there is still a role for an expert. There's still a role for somebody who specializes, who can make sure that when it comes time to buy, the customer is making the right decision. Somebody who will go and say, yes, this is the right choice. So we think of this now in this world of information abundance. This is the age of the self-directed buyer. Now, this is not every buyer. Certainly, there are some buyers who are not self-directed. There's some buyers who reach out and at step one, I need some help, guide me. But more and more buyers are becoming self-directed, where they expect to make most of the research, most of the decision-making on their own, and then engage the salesperson at the end of the process. Now, a few facts about today's consumers that I think really kind of drive this in. So when making a purchase decision, today the average consumer, just average, reads 11.4 pieces of content. So articles, emails, advertisements, reviews, social media posts, 11.4 on average before making a purchase decision. Now, who do they trust? Today's consumers are 71% more likely to purchase something if they see it referred to on social media. So if they see their friends and family endorsing, commenting, 71% more likely to purchase. That's a big change. And so because of this, because people want to see more content before they make a purchase, because they want to trust people they know as opposed to a salesperson they may not know, we need to think not in terms of sales presentations with self-directed buyers. We need to think in terms of funnels and journeys and processes. We need to think about, how does this buyer move from undecided, unknowing, to informed, making a purchase? What's the process they go through? And how do we as professionals guide them? How do we give them tools, those 11.4 pieces of content, to help them get to the right decision, to get them to the point where they can make a purchase decision and proceed forward? And kind of to drive this home, when do people talk to a salesperson? When do they pick up the phone and call you? In information scarcity, it's at the beginning of the process. Today, it's when they're ready to buy. And I'm sure you're seeing this. More and more people call you up and they're like, okay, this is what I need, make it happen. Now, there are some good things about this. And I think the biggest good thing about this is it means that you can be much more efficient with your time, with who you talk to. If you're only talking to people who are ready to buy, if all day long your calendar is full of customers who just want to buy, that's a fantastic place to be. That's the best place to be. And in fact, we've seen this in other industries. Real estate, another type of decision that's very complicated. People have been talking about the death of the realtor, but they're still here. They haven't gone away. We have lots of tools to go and look at home prices online. You can take virtual tours, but people still call their real estate agent to make a purchase because they don't want to get it wrong. Technology-based realtors, meaning realtors who do most of their interactions through technology. They use automation to communicate with customers. They give customers self-service tools to go and research homes, to make their kind of reviews happen, and to guide them to that purchase. Technology-based realtors make 3 times as much as non-technology-based realtors. They tripled their income. And this comes from the National Association of Realtors. They're saying that if you use technology, you triple your income. And so we've been talking about the death of the realtor. We see this too with InsurTech. There's people who want to come and take away your market. But the truth is that there's actually more opportunity now. With technology in place, if you can be more efficient, if you can automate more of this, you can increase your ability to sell, because you're talking to those people who are ready to buy. You're talking to the best prospects. You're not out fishing, you're closing deals. So One more piece to this puzzle, and I talked about thinking in terms of buyer journeys, thinking about how do you guide a self-directed buyer from first contact to purchase decision. And I think that this chart kind of explains the process you need to take somebody through. The 5 levels of awareness, this is not specific to long-term care insurance. This is not specific to insurance. This is general across how people buy. And we have these 5 stages that go from really just completely unaware of the product, of the category, of the problems, why you need it, what it does, to completely aware. They understand what the problem is, what the solution is. They know their options, they know pricing, they know benefits. And somebody has to go through this entire process to be ready to buy. And so we can, on the bottom, I put long-term care specific content. So, unaware, they don't even know about the issue of long-term care. They've never had a friend or family go into a nursing home, and they've never had to take care of somebody. They've never seen how expensive it is. They don't know about the risks. They're just happily oblivious. Problem aware means they have some exposure or some awareness to long-term care. They know that there is a thing called long-term care. It happens to a lot of people. It's expensive. There are costs involved. They may not know ways to pay for them. They may have assumptions that are wrong about how to pay for them, but at least they know that long-term care is a thing. Solution aware, they know there are funding options available. They know that there's this thing called long-term care, and it has a cost, and there are some ways they can fund it. They may not know the details of that, but they at least know that there is a solution to this problem. Your solution aware, they know about long-term care insurance, they know about you, and that you can provide it with them. And then most aware is they understand the product, they understand how it's different from other solutions, they know kind of the facts versus myths, they know the features, the benefits, they know the cost, they know everything they need to know to make a decision. So when somebody is most aware, they're at that point where they can make a purchase if they're going to. So our challenge is to take somebody through this entire process. And you all have done this. You've done it with other products. You've probably done it with long-term care, starting with unaware and guiding somebody through. And it's something that you already do. We just want to take this process and find a way to automate it so that you end up spending all of your time at 5 people who are most aware and ready to buy. This is the dream. This is the goal. This is where we want to be. Now, all of this really adds to the complexity and the opportunity of long-term care sales. So trust with self-directed buyers. We know that self-directed buyers tend to want to go it alone. They're distrusting of salespeople until they're ready. They don't want to be deceived. They feel like they can be tricked. They feel like they're not getting the full story. They want to go and find out the information and validate it on their own. If you sell too hard to a self-directed buyer, if you come in with a hard sale, hard close, you're going to lose their trust and they're going to retreat and go somewhere else. And so the solution to that, to building trust with self-directed buyers, is to position yourself as an information source. You can help them get information, help them get especially valid third-party information that's not, not just from you, but it comes from a third-party source, so they can go and get the content they need to make a decision. Your presentation timing to get somebody at that 5th stage when they're ready it's nearly impossible. If you want to time your presentation, time your phone call when somebody's at that ready to buy stage, it's not going to happen. And so instead, you have to think about that entire journey and how do you move somebody through and then recognize when they're ready? What's a systematic way to take somebody from unaware to completely aware? And this is a complex decision. This is more like real estate. This is more like a realtor than it is like a plane ticket. And the costs of getting it wrong are significant. And ultimately, people are going to want to have a thumbs up. Okay, this is the right thing to buy. They're going to want to have an advisor they trust, a consultant they trust, to give them the seal of approval to make a purchase. And that's the role. That's how you want to position yourself. not as the person who's selling them something, but the person that's making sure they get the right thing and helping them get the right information to get to the right decision. So let's dive into this concept of cross-marketing. The solution, which we probably have already figured out, is to let customers move through this funnel because they're self-directed. Let them move through the funnel at their own pace, get the information they need, and you want to stay in front of them, drip on them automatically so that they're always learning from you, always seeing from you, and then have some way to recognize at the end of the funnel that they're arriving. They're in a position where they're now aware enough to really get into a sales presentation, really talk specifics about buying, look at a specific plan, specific rates, and go and make that decision about what they're going to buy and submit an application. So the solution is to move customers through the funnel at their own pace. And there's a couple components of this system, and we'll go through all of them. So cross-marketing, the first thing is you have to have leads, right? Yeah, you can't cross-market without somebody to market to. So step one is some system for lead acquisition. Because we're cross-marketing, these are generally leads we're getting from some other source. The next is you need to have a drip marketing system, a way to stay in front of them consistently, repeatedly over a long period of time. 11.4 on average pieces of content. We want to be better than average. So you need to be ready to stay in front of somebody to drip on them for a long time. Research tools. You have to have tools they can go to learn, to read, to explore, to compare, to do that analysis that they're going to do, just like we saw with the cars, with the trucks. They have to have tools they can go to get the data that makes them feel like they're ready to move forward. And then finally, some conversion mechanism, some way for people to signal to you that they're ready, so you know who to focus on, so you can spend your time closing sales and not prospecting people who are not ready. Let's break it down. So lead acquisition, cross-marketing. So we have seen some agents that do this really well, and it tends to come in a couple different flavors. The first one is associations, affiliate relationships. If you have these relationships, these are a gold mine, especially if you take more of this educational approach, because these are people who they're not ready to buy, but there's already that that position of trust, and the association or the affiliate, by providing them with good content that helps them guide them down this path, is actually doing them a service. It's actually a value add to the association. The next one are partnerships. And so some that we've seen that worked really well, accountants. If you have accountants you work with that can send you their customers, they can talk to their customers about tax benefits of long-term care products. They can talk to their customers about financial planning. Financial advisors, another one. As they're building out plans, often they know that long-term care is an important part of a plan, but they don't really have the details. And we've seen some long-term care specialists build great partnerships with financial advisors, where they're building up very successful practices just by referrals to financial advisors. And then other agents. So there's lots of other agents out there who don't do long-term care, don't want to deal with it, don't want to deal with the complexity, the continued education. And so that's another short source of a partnership, is finding an agent that can send prospects your way. And then the last one, not to be forgotten, is other product sales. So this is often the best one if you are selling under 65 health insurance, or if you are a P&C agency, if you are doing homeowners insurance. Having a way to take those customers and then cross-market systematically as they come in, reach out to them, and take them down this process of learning about long-term care. That is often a gold mine of opportunity if you put this in place. A couple gotchas. The first one, of course, is knowing who the right long-term care insurance buyer is in general. You know, there's certain criteria. You know, it's somewhat expensive, so they have to be able to afford it. They have to be, in an age where they're going to qualify. They have to be, somebody who looks like they're going to be a good prospect. And so knowing who the target market is the first step, making sure that you're marketing to people who are likely to be good fits. The second one, because this drip marketing happens primarily through email, you have to make sure you have their email address. And your email list, if you're not capturing emails right now, you need to start today. Promise me you're going to start capturing emails of every customer you can possibly, because long term, that email list will become one of the biggest assets you have. It is your book of business. It is your ability to interact with your clients and your contacts. And so make sure you're getting email addresses, make sure you're capturing them and storing them. Now, a few ideas if you're thinking, okay, I've got a lot of clients, but I don't have a lot of emails. A few ideas. This is one I've seen people do very, very successfully. It takes a little bit of work, but it's put together a customer survey, customer satisfaction survey, or some kind of survey that you send out via email. And then you or somebody in your office, or you can hire somebody to do this, calls every single one of your customers and tells them, hey, we are sending out a customer survey. We want to know about your experience. It's being sent out via email. Can I get your email address to send you the survey? So you call and ask them. So one-time investment, get those email addresses. Or even you can just call them up and say, things are changing really fast. The healthcare landscape is evolving really quickly. The insurance landscape is evolving really quickly. I need a way to make sure I can get information out to you quickly when I need to. Can I get your email address? So a couple ideas there of how you can get emails. It's worth the investment. That probably seems, if you don't have any email addresses to call up every customer, like a lot of work. It is a lot of work, but it's something that will pay off for the rest of the time you're in business. So email addresses. And then finally, as you capture these email addresses, you want to make sure you're staying organized. You want to have a system, a customer relationship management system to keep these all tracked, organized. If you sell Medicare, or I think even if you don't, you can use Medicare Center, which is something that we have access to. Give us a call. We can let you take a look at it. So Medicare Center is one. There's others out there, but make sure you have a system to keep track of your customer base, to keep track of your book of business, to organize your emails, because these approaches don't work if you're not organized. Okay, so that's lead acquisition. Next one is drip marketing. Now, the easy part is to go and get an email marketing system. So there's lots of them out there. CRM sometimes will have them. MailChimp is free up to 2,000 contacts, I believe. So you can go get a MailChimp account, Constant Contact. These are different systems you can use to send emails to track opens. They'll take care of unsubscribes and keeping you compliant with CAN spam. Make sure you have a system set up. So one of these two, not something else. This is the easy part. This is the easy part, to go and get that signed up. The rest of it's a little harder, but we're going to help you. So once you have a system, you need to create an email sequence that takes somebody through that five-phase journey from unaware to completely aware. And you want to do this in your voice. You want to make it personal. You want to make it conversational. You want to talk to them as somebody who's guiding and advising, not somebody who's selling or marketing. And you want to give them access to the tools, the information they're going to need to go through this process. And so we say 12 email in this sequence. And the reason why we say 12, because we know that 11.4 is the average. So we got to beat that. And then you can trigger this based on events in customer life cycle. So if you're cross-selling to health insurance customers, maybe it's 60 days after the purchase, after they enroll. Maybe it's after a birthday. You can think about when it's appropriate to start to market to people. When do they become a good fit, at least from a high level, for long-term care? And we do have templates. I told you we would help you with this. Writing these emails is the hardest part, but we're putting together, you can reach out to us and we'll get it to you, some templates to start with. These are a starting point. They're not done because you need to put your own voice on it. You need to make sure it speaks to your market. We've got content that you can use to send out. You can load it into MailChimp or Constant Contact or your CRM and set up this drip marketing system. That's the second piece. Now, a few keys. Remember that you have to stick with it. It's going to take on average 11.4 pieces of content. So the longer you can do this, the better. Remember who people trust. They trust their friends. They trust social media. They trust third parties. And so you want to make sure you're sharing stories, case studies, the kinds of things that people can relate to, not just your word, but find a way to back it up, to validate it. And then remember the funnel. We're not just pushing quotes. We're not just pushing sales presentations. The call to action is not get quotes. The call to action is not, contact me to learn more always. You want to make sure that you're guiding them. You're giving them other types of information so they can go and learn more. And then later on, you'll come back and offer the quote and offer for them to talk to you. So remember the funnel. Okay, research and conversion. This is the cool part. This is kind of the proprietary thing that we've got. So when somebody gets to the point where they want to really kind of dig in, we want to make sure they can answer the biggest question they have. And the biggest question, we as salespeople hate this question, but it's the first thing every customer wants to know. It's how much does it cost? Okay, how much does it cost? What's it going to cost me? Can I afford it? Before we even go any further, how much does it cost? And we know that in the case of buying a truck, well, how much does an F-150 cost? And the answer is it really depends. They can be pretty cheap or they can be very expensive because there's lots of options. Same with long-term care. But we need to give them a range. We need to show them that it can be affordable, that there's options, they can adjust the price. And so we've developed a tool that lets you answer this question. Because once you answer this question, once people know the cost ranges, they know it's in their budget, then they feel okay moving forward. But until they answer that question, they're concerned that they're going to get oversold or they can't afford it. They're going to be embarrassed because it's too expensive. And it becomes a showstopper to so many prospects from engaging you. And so we have built this system to answer this question. Now, the cool thing is, once somebody's seen the cost, we then have a way to automatically qualify them. So we take that customer, and we don't just show them the cost, but we then walk them through the process of what it takes to qualify for long-term care. And so this research and conversion system that we've got, and I'll show you a screenshot in a second, will generate, and I say this with confidence, the best long-term care leads you have ever seen in your lifetime. These are the best leads. And the reason why is because they have learned from you. They have answered the biggest question, how much does it cost? They've seen a price that they feel okay with because we give them a range. They have then gone through a screener to make sure that they're likely to get qualified and underwritten for long-term care, and they've scheduled a time to talk to you. And somebody at that stage is pretty much ready to buy. We've seen one call closes, $6,000 a year premium. One call closes through the system. It's amazing. Now, of course, many people do not qualify. And so for them, we have the process forks. And so if somebody's likely not to qualify for long-term care, we don't stop them. We don't say, okay, go away, we don't want to talk to you anymore. We start to educate them on alternatives. And we let them know that there's still some solutions available to them and they need to talk to you to explore those. So this is a screenshot. This is something we built with Mutual of Omaha. And there's a very quick process. It's anonymous to let somebody go in and based on their needs. So in this case, this is a 54-year-old male and a 51-year-old female in Idaho. And they can very quickly go in and see some plans. And the cool thing about this is we give them 3 options. We couldn't call it small, medium, and large because that doesn't fly with the compliance people. So we say option 1, option 2, option 3, but they are small, medium, and large. And you can see that $100 a month for a couple in their 50s. That's not bad. That's doable. That's affordable. Now, option 3, when you get to pretty large plan, almost $500 a month, that might be a little bit out of reach for some people. but at least we know that there's options. And so we let people go and explore costs, and kind of like the F-150 truck, they can then decide, do they need the fancy stereo and leather seats or not? And this is, of course, the process that you go through. But at this point, somebody's answered that question. They can raise their hand and say, yeah, okay, I want to proceed, go through the health screener, and then end up as the best lead you'll ever see. So to make this work, to make the system work, it really begins with this one thing, and that's a consistent source of prospects and the ability to reach out to them. So in order for this to work, you have to have some stream of customers. It doesn't have to be a lot, it doesn't have to be 1,000 a week, but a steady stream of people that you can reach out to. And you have to have a way to get their email address. And again, you can cross-sell customers who buy other products. So if you're also selling P&C products, if you're also selling healthcare, if you're also selling MedSup, other kinds of things, you can cross-sell into those markets. It can be affiliations, associations, or other groups. Aged leads, we've seen people do this with aged leads where they take long-term care leads they've talked to in the past, dripped on them to walk them through this process, re-engage them. Those work, but not as well. So if you have aged leads, I'm not going to say, no, don't do it. But just the results are going to be a little lower because they've already had the exposure. They already have a pre-existing opinion. They've already kind of said no or bought somewhere else. And so they can be harder to move through this process. Doesn't mean there's nothing there, but the results will be a little lower. So what you can get from AIM is a customized quoting site and the sample emails. What we need from you first is for you to show that you have a source of leads. You have to show us how you're going to generate these cross-selling prospects. This is sort of a partnership. Show us how you're going to generate the opportunities, and then make sure that you have the ability to actually send out the emails. So you're capturing emails, you set up an email system, you can put this in place. And if you can show us that, if you can reach out to us and say, here's where I get my leads through this organization, through cross-selling, through whatever, and I have an email system set up, we'll give you the quoting site branded to you, and we'll give you the emails to send out that you can use to customize them and get them all loaded up and put this to work. So that is the automated cross-marketing. Now, maybe we can pause here for a second and see if anybody has questions. I've been talking for a long time. Mike, do you see, has anybody popped into the chat with a question or?
Well, they did opt into the chat with a question, and I will answer, but it's not specific to this stuff. Okay. Traditional long-term care products do not have continuation of benefits riders. Okay. The hybrid products have some version of that. That's a question and a conversation to have outside the scope of what we're doing here. So other than that, we don't have anybody that's popped up with questions yet, but we can take a minute here, unmute some folks, and if anybody wants to weigh in with a question. As always, we would ask, as I get ready to do this, that if you're not going to ask a question, to go ahead and self-mute yourself. And while we're doing this, I know Eliana's over there furiously working to come up with our 4 winners of the gift card. So we will have that part, which is a piece that everybody's eagerly awaiting. That'll be coming up here shortly. So again, we are unmuting everybody, and we're asking you to self-mute if you don't have any questions, and the floor is open for questions.
Well, Mike, I'm glad you're on the call for that other question, because I would have said, my answer would have been, call Mike.
Well, we saved the guy a dime. All right, what do we got here? Okay. Question is, what if you don't have people to talk to just getting started in business?
Yeah, that's a different conversation. Today's call really is cross marketing, and cross marketing.
I do have some answers for that piece, though. So
yeah.
You go ahead.
Or that's okay. I was going to say cross marketing begins when you have that flow of customers coming in.
Right. I get that question or some version of that question a lot. And I think one of the biggest disservices that agents can do to themselves, frankly, don't take this the wrong way, but is to limit themselves only to quote unquote leads. There's a lot of ways to go about doing this. If you take a cup of coffee on Saturday morning and a notepad and start writing down the names of everybody that you know and everybody that your partner or spouse knows and their spouses, pretty quickly you're going to come up with, I would say very easily, the names of 50-ish people that you can have a long-term care conversation with. Okay. And when I mention this, I get some pushback from agents. Oh, that's too close. And it is close. There's no question about it. But what's more difficult than a conversation with someone who's close to you is to see that person later and know, because this has happened to me personally, and know that there has been some sort of life-changing event, and that happens often when you get past a certain age, but there's been some sort of life-changing event, and now they are in a situation where long-term care would have been beneficial to them. And I would much rather have had that conversation because they know who you are and they know what you do. It's not going to be an unrealistic expectation that you initiate that conversation with them. I don't think they're going to be that surprised, and I am certain you'd rather do that and have them say, well, I really don't think I want to do anything with that, as opposed to not. And then they're looking at you like, hey, Chris, how come you didn't ask me about this? How come we didn't have this conversation? 9 out of every 10 people that you agents on the phone, we had more than 60 folks on the phone at one point in time here, 9 out of every 10 people that you know and that you interact with through the mechanical part of your job, and 9 out of every 10 people who are in your database, your client base, have not had a long-term care conversation. Those numbers right there should give you plenty of people to start with to begin this process before you actually have leads available. 9 out of 10 right there. That's a big number. So, all right, we got a couple more questions here. Yeah, we do offer hybrid products. Give us a call. We'd be glad to talk to you about that. Question about, sorry to hog the show here, Aaron, but they seem to keep throwing stuff up there that seems like it fits more kind of outside the span of what we did here. But do workshops work as a marketing vehicle? In the last 5 years to 7 years, we have seen, let's call it the dinosaur effect for workshops. They're dying off. And the reason that they're dying off is all the different things that Aaron talked about at the beginning when he was talking about that glut of information and how you have this you can use the terminology better than I can, Aaron, and I'll let you jump in a sec, but you have these people that are informed. They're very well informed, and that's because there's all this other information out there. They're not going to wait for a workshop. We know, in fact, that when people go online and respond to a request for information about long-term care, it's kind of a rigged game. They're expecting when they click on a link that says click here to get your 6 long-term care quotes, they expect that they're going to get 6 long-term care quotes. What they don't expect is their phone number getting routed to an agent and that somebody calls them 5 minutes later and wants to talk to them about it. So there's an expectation that there's going to be something close to instant gratification, which isn't, it's not the way that it works. And I would hate to see, frankly, I'd hate to see anybody spend the money to put together a workshop and then not have anybody show up. Somebody else asked about online webinars. Great idea, but the question comes back to who is it that you are going to reach out to? If you have people to reach out to that would populate an online webinar, you should be able to execute some of the other pieces that Aaron asked about. We did have a request here that you go back to the drip marketing slide, the one that had the 5 steps. So I'm going to let you go ahead and do that.
I think that is here.
There we go. Okay. So there it is. Give you a second to, make a couple notes or whatever. If you really want to, I suppose we can probably send you out the slideshow, the slides of this PowerPoint presentation, but it doesn't get around the real steps that need to be taken, and those are to evaluate clients and start making phone calls. This slide deck is not going to make phone calls for you, okay? Another question we've got is, how many email addresses do you feel like somebody would need to set up and operate the LTCi quoting site?
Well, I think of this more in terms of flow than a single list. If you have a single list, I'd want to have a couple hundreds to get started. Right. But if you could generate 20, 30 new contacts a month, you'd be golden over the long term.
Yes, that would be plenty for sure. So, okay. Presentation is recorded, probably be posted sometime next week because this is a series. We're not in quite as big of a hurry as we would normally be to get stuff put up on the website right away. What do we got here? All right, good, good, good. Any other questions out there, verbal or otherwise? Again, we got most everybody unmuted, but they're staying self-muted, which we're appreciating everybody observing protocol and being polite to everybody else that is involved. We will be making a round of follow-up calls on this, the marketing team here, so you would expect that you're going to be getting a call from somebody within the next 24 hours. That would give you the opportunity to ask any questions, etc. And anybody otherwise that's in like a super big hurry, okay, the contact info here is 800-672-7202. We're at extension 129. One last piece, and then we'll take a look. We'll do a bit of a sneak preview for next week. Remember, the first thing as an action step that you have to take to do this is to get yourself appointed to represent these long-term care insurance companies. We've got a group of 4 that we're super comfortable with and that we've had success with, and we're recommending with a couple of state-specific exceptions that if you're working in state X, that you pick up all of those carriers so that you're positioned to legally go out and have that conversation. Okay, it does create a compliance issue if you aren't appointed with carrier X and you are out there actively representing that carrier to clients. So, all right, let's take a quick sneak peek at next week. It's the Underwriting, LTC Underwriting and Alternatives website, okay? Don Erickson and I will be with you next week on Tuesday, same time, 10 o'clock. We're going to talk about why the basics and following through on very basic steps can help you and your clients avoid app fatigue. We will create a very clear awareness of the value of the concept of what I call the fork in the road and how that can save your cases. We want to make sure you get an understanding of the idea that what you see depends on where you stand, and we are going to talk more, and this will be a recurring theme in a lot of conversations that we have also going forward. We're going to talk more about COVID-19 and what that has meant in the long-term care marketplace and what potentially it's going to mean further down the road for prospects. So all of that said, no more questions popping up here. So want to go ahead and kick it back over to Eliana. Again, our next webinar, the 3rd in our series, will be on the 29th. That'll be 10 o'clock Pacific time once again. Very important reminder. Everybody that is with us on the call here today is already registered for that. You'll get the succession of email notifications and reminders that Eliana talked about at the top of the call. And now for the big news, I will turn it over to Eliana, and she has the names of the gift card winners for this week. Eliana, go ahead.
All right, thanks, Mike. So our 4 winners for this week are Kathy Smithson out of Washington, Tom Rasmussen from Colorado, Scott Stuffelbeam out of Idaho, and Linda Wong from Texas. So you'll be receiving those as e-gift cards, e-Amazon gift cards to your email, so keep an eye on that, out for that today.
Great. Okay. We're going to go ahead and wrap that up. Special thanks to our technology specialist, Aaron Cassover. He is a great value add for us and the marketing team here at AIM. He's a great value add just in terms of the ability to talk about these kinds of concepts in webinars. Hope everybody appreciates that. And we want to thank everybody for joining us here. So appreciate you all, and we'll look to talk to everybody soon. Take care now.